Hello, and welcome to Inbox, where your questions land in front of cybersecurity experts like me. Hi, I'm Charlie, and today we've got something just a little bit different. I'm here in person in the studio, but our guest is tuning in virtually. Because in our world where cyber threats evolve by the hour, we need threat intelligence professionals who are always watching and who are always adapting no matter where they are. And since cybercriminals don't take days off, neither does he. Let's welcome Derek Mankey.
Hi, I'm Derek Mankey, Chief Security Strategist and Global VP of Threat Intelligence at Fortinet's FortiGuard Labs. And what that means is I track cybercriminals every day. I have a group of worldwide threat hunters, understanding the latest tactics, techniques of cybercriminals, who they are, what they are, how they're operating, what their playbooks are. And we put that to action as a security vendor, of course, to be able to better understand and protect against those threats, but to work with industries so that these cyber criminals don't go unpunished and that we can actually create friction in the ecosystem of cyber criminals. And today, with the help of Charlie, I'll be answering your questions from my inbox.
So, with that intro out of the way, let's jump straight into the questions. These questions came straight from high school students who are curious about what it's really like working in threat intelligence. And for you, Derek, I hope you're ready because we've got quite a thick stack today. All right, so first question, what does threat intelligence actually mean? Is it kind of like being a detective for the internet?
Really, first of all, if I think of threat intelligence, it's really, first of all, understanding the threat, knowing the threat landscape, the history of the threat landscape, where attackers came from, knowing that today attackers aren't just this teenager in a basement trying to hack the Department of Defense, like in war games and all these Hollywood movies we saw in the past.
Would you like to see some projected kill ratios?
69% of the housing destroyed, 72 million people dead.
A lot of these cyber criminals now are organized crimes. So you really have to understand with threat intelligence not only the what, like what tools they're using, but also what are their targets that they've done in the past? What targets are they likely to hit in the future? Why are they motivated to hit those targets? All of that is a profile or a portfolio, if you will, that we put into threat intelligence, and we call this threat hunting. So in essence, it is a little bit like being a detective, but there's a lot more to it, right? It's not just looking at the surface, but understanding all of the above underneath.
What is a threat indicator and how do you use it to stop attacks before they happen?
Now, threat indicators are the bits and bytes of threat intelligence. So it's really what we call an IOC, an indicator of compromise. These are things like IP addresses, URLs, network artifacts, anything that can be transferred or shared as threat intelligence, structured, and then put into a security control, right? So that's what an indicator is used for. It's an indicator of compromise. It's something related to an attack. It's a fingerprint, if you will, to that attack that we can then take and put into actionable intelligence. So it's the building blocks of threat intelligence.
How do you tell the difference between normal internet traffic versus something suspicious, like a cyber attack starting?
If we look at the difference between normal internet traffic or something suspicious, we can usually find the difference based off of baselines and anomalies. Again, you need to understand what is normal first. So you look at what normal traffic is over a period of time. Usually the longer period of time, the better. And then you can start to apply intelligence to that. If you see an anomaly, a workstation or a user, an identity that's going out to a different server on a weekend and they're never active during the weekend, that's a deviation from the norm, from the baseline. So that's usually how we tell the difference between what's normal with internet traffic, right? Building a baseline and profile, and then also suspicious activity. And it's not That concept is not just applied to internet traffic, we also apply it to binaries, to executables running on systems, to processes, to behaviors, to hands-on keyboard activities from employees as well too. So all those things are very useful to know for baselines of intelligence.
How much of your job is about using tools and data, and how much of it is human instincts or teamwork?
A lot of it, so it's all of the above, but it's a funnel. Yeah, because we only have so many limited humans. There's a skills gap issue out there in the industry. We need more good people. The industry needs more good people. So we don't want to overburden the humans, right? So it's a funnel approach where it escalates. You have a stack that we build where tools and data are sitting at the bottom of the stack. Automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning is built on top of that bottom of the stack. And then it gets escalated into teams and into specific subject matter experts for that. So as an example, if we get something in for threat intelligence, that's a new ransomware sample, that would get escalated into a person who is an expert in reverse engineering, into understanding viruses, analyzing the virus, finding the patterns so we can detect it. If it's something, again, from a full attack that we need to look at and investigate through forensics, that's going to go into a professional service team, into incident response. So that's also important for that too, right? So there's different escalation paths, but it all starts in that big churn, the data lake of threat intelligence, as we like to call it.
What's the difference between tactical threat intelligence and strategic threat intelligence? And do you do both?
What's the difference? Do we do both? Yes. Tactical is really about what I was describing earlier, about the application of actionable intelligence. So it's understanding the threat intelligence and tactically applying it so you can use it. Whereas strategic threat intelligence is more of the plan, right? It's looking at how are we going to share this intelligence? How are we going to structure it into frameworks? What frameworks are we going to use? Both of them are critically important, and we do both.
Ooh, this next one's about AI. Is artificial intelligence making cyber criminals harder to catch, or is it helping you stop them faster?
It is making cyber criminals easier to catch, actually, because the industry, the blue team, has invested much more into artificial intelligence than the attackers have. Why is that? Because the red team, or the attackers, they're going after low-hanging fruit still. They're trying to phish and scam people and use stolen credentials to get into networks. And so really, for once, with AI, it is a very valuable tool that's really helping to turn the tide with cybersecurity and threat intelligence. I think it puts us in the driver's seat, so it's actually making cyber criminals easier to catch. But with that said, we're starting to see attackers use it now. So they're catching up, but they're rapidly adopting it. And now we're getting into that cat and mouse game on that whole new level, right? It's like cat and mouse 2.0 compared to that first automation kind of cycle I was talking about before.
Oh, this is a fun one. What is the biggest cyber threat that you've ever helped stop?
And the biggest one was actually very recently, just in August of 2025, where we were one of 7 partners that helped to work with Interpol on Operation Serengeti 2.0 that led to over 1,200 arrests. So I say this is a biggest cyber threat because it's not just one person or threat actor, it's multiple threat actors combined into one operation, and it's massive, and this is exactly what we need to keep doing. There's over 1,200 arrests, over $85 million US that we recovered from victims, and there was over 50,000 victims that we helped out. So that is big in my books, no matter how you cut it.
And finally, our last question. If you had to hire a high schooler right now, what would you look for besides technical skill?
Now, in my advice, to anybody looking to get into cybersecurity are twofold. Number one, don't complicate it. It seems very daunting and complex, and that this can be a very challenging career, but it's a rewarding career, and there's easy entryways to get into it. In addition to the technical skills, we live in a technical world that continues to evolve, right? From technical skills now being able to use and leverage artificial intelligence tools as an example. Soft skills are still critically important. as I said, this teamwork, the innovation, the public and private sector, the threat intelligence sharing that we do, knowledge transfer from a technical expert to executives and companies is critically important. It's tough to find a lot of the time. So, making sure that you harness and develop those soft skills to work with technical skills, to articulate technical concepts in a soft skill communication environment, that's definitely what I'd recommend. That's something that really takes your career a long way.
Amazing. That's all of the questions that we have for you today, Derek. Big thanks to you for joining us and for giving us a real world look into what it means to defend against cyber attacks.
It was my pleasure to answer those. I hope it was insightful. And thanks all for the great questions.
If you're sitting there wondering whether you could do something like Derek one day, the answer is yes, because nobody starts out knowing everything. But if you're willing to learn, to think critically, and to care about making the internet safer, you're already well on your way. So keep asking the big questions and keep showing up. And we'll see you on the next episode of Inbox.